Hey guys, it's TheFrXion here, Tag12, having to call me, I don't really care, and welcome back to World of Tanks. This is the third time I'm trying to record this video because somebody has been hammering on a Sunday morning next door. I have no idea what's going on there, but hopefully they get their cupboard set up soon. Oh god. Still a bit tired, just so you know. I decided to take a little break of studying and to producing this little video. I thought it was perfect time to make a little review of the M4A1 FL10. This is the French hybrid Sherman based with or combined with a FL10 turret, which is in the game also the turret for the EBR FL10. That's a tier 8 premium light tank. Unfortunately, we have quite a bit of stutter going on. I have no idea what's causing that, but today we're going to be reviewing this vehicle. We're going to have a gameplay ready as well. But first and foremost, I wanted to thank you all, guys. Oh my god. Thank you all for subscribing, all the new guys and girls that have subscribed to the channel. Means a lot to me, and I just wanted to clarify a couple of things. The last couple of days I've gotten massive amounts of comments and likes, especially on the Surfosh video, and I just wanted to clarify that I did not want to use Surfosh's name as a means to increase my channel's viewership. The reason why I thought it was relevant is because Surfosh has been a part of the World of Tanks community for a very long time, and because of his playstyle. That is, I think, the most important part, because his playstyle was that of a World of Tanks player that is very skilled and doesn't use a lot of premium shells. And I think with the development of the game in the last 5-6 years, you can see that that is a breed that doesn't really exist anymore. People do tend to fire a lot more gold than they did previously, and I think that is a big shame, because it shows us the development of the game that is going towards less weak spots, less knowledge of the vehicles to, if you can't go through, just load the gold, you're going to be able to do it with that. And it kind of takes away the skill aspect of the game, and it's just one of those things that I've noticed that has gone missing in the last couple of years. And I think it's all nice and dandy to get something like this atmosphere and this Christmas kind of garage and the premium tanks, but if the core gameplay is regressing, I think that is a very, very bad sign. And that's one of the reasons why I thought it was very important to acknowledge that Surfosh is done with the game, and that I think a lot of people are feeling the same way that he is feeling right now about World of Tanks. That's one of the reasons why I'm hoping that we can turn this ship around, but at the moment I am kind of mostly negative towards Wargaming and World of Tanks, because I think that there is just no way for them to redeem themselves if they do not change their major way of handling this game. But that's a complete topic for another video. I just wanted to clarify, I didn't want to use Surfosh's name for any kind of fame or new followership. I just wanted to address the current issues that we are facing with this game, and with quite a couple of things with World of Tanks. So yeah, having that out of the way, we can finally talk about the M4A1 FL10. And I'm sorry if there's a bit of choppiness on this video. There seems to be a bit of a stuttering going on around with my computer. I have no idea, maybe the power settings are a bit weird, but yeah, we're looking at the M4A1 FL10. This is a tank that I wanted for a very long time in the game, because it's one of these Frankenstein hybrid tanks that looks super cool. It's an M4 Sherman hull, and it's, I think, the one that the original M4 Sherman, which was completely like one cast or one hull, one piece, and you have the EBR turret, or you have the AMX turret, which is probably one of the vehicles that the French did export the most, the AMX tanks. and I think it's very cool. It has an auto-reloading system, or auto-reloader, and it fires 4 shells in a single magazine. The thing is just that the rate of fire and the reload time is not as great. What I've noticed with this tank is that at first I thought that it's going to be a nice tank. It was going to be a vehicle that I was looking forward to. But then when I noticed that, yeah, it's a bit special, and I played a couple of games in it, I did not like it at first. It took a couple of games for me to get the grip of this tank or get the feeling of what this tank is about. And then when I finally had a couple of games where I was able to use my knowledge into basically the way how this tank is supposed to be handled, I've noticed that I really did enjoy this tank. And it's quite interesting, because I think it's a lot of fun, but I'm not really sure if it's the best vehicle that you can get at tier 6, especially with other options out there such as the Cromwell B, the TheFrXion M42 57 Alt A2, or the Poodle, the Rudy, all those vehicles. But you know what? We're going to go right into the statistics. We're going to be comparing it to the TheFrXion because it's also a very similar kind of vehicle, and then we're going to take this bad boy out onto the battlefield. Now, the very first thing we're going to go off the looks right now is it's a Sherman with a French turret. That means it's quite a large vehicle. If you look at its kind of profile, it's very tall. It's a tall tank because it's a Sherman. Shermans are tall, and now with the French turret as well, makes it a bit taller even. So yeah, it's quite a big target, and that is probably more a bad thing than a good thing. If we compare it to the Cromwell B, now the Cromwell B obviously is a very, very slim, very small. The M4 is obviously taller than it is, and it's even taller than the TheFrXion M42 57, which is very small and compact. Same with the Cromwell B, and then you have this giant thing that is just also quite wide, and it's also quite long. It's tall, it's long, and it's wide. It's probably everything a man dreams of, and it's the worst nightmare that you can have if you're facing artillery, because obviously you're going to be a quite large target. I mean, it's just as tall as the Tiger 1 right here, the heavy tank number 6. That is the Tiger that was exported to Japan, but actually never reached the shores of Japan, I think. They actually used them in the western, on the Western Front, which the Germans leased back. They sold the tank to Japanese, then they leased it because they had no more tanks. And yeah, quite interesting story right there. But I think they never really repainted them in that color. I think it was always just the German color scheme, just with maybe some Japanese insignia. So yeah, this tank, I think it looks really cool. I think it's nice. It's quite large, so it's a big target, and it has a big old gun. Look at that gun. It's a very long gun, especially for a tank like this. That means a gun. Okay, a gun. That is very important, because this gun has 135 average damage, a pen of 148 millimeters, a rate of fire of 10.73 rounds per minute, which doesn't seem to be that bad, but if we think about it and we look at the Cromwell, it's basically almost 10 rounds per minute more, and even with the TheFrXion, there is a 1 round per minute more than the M4A1 FL10. So the reload is quite long. It's 17.12 seconds, and during that reload, a lot of things can happen at tier 6. So that's one thing you have to keep in mind. Your 4 rounds only do 134 damage per shot. So yeah, you're maybe going to be able to reach about 500 with all 4 shots if you get decent rolls, but getting more damage than that is pretty much impossible. 500 damage for a vehicle that has a 17-second reload is maybe not the best. There are going to be situations in the game where you're going to be facing certain tanks that will just have better DPM than you, and they will take care of you, especially if you're on the reload. So you have to be very careful how you play this tank. You cannot be the very first one in combat. You cannot be the vehicle that is too far away. You have to find kind of a ground. It's, I think, a very good supporting tank, or it should be a supporting vehicle, because the armor is also a thing that we should talk about, but just in a second. So the gun traverse speed of 38.4 seconds or degrees per second also tells you that the turret traverse is not as amazing. It's quite slow, especially for a tier 6 medium tank. If we compare it to the TheFrXion, you can see, okay, the TheFrXion isn't that great either, but we're gonna get to the good thing. The Cromwell obviously has crazy good turret traverse. This thing doesn't have the best turret traverse. It has 148 millimeters of pen though, so that is something that it is going for itself. If you look at the Cromwell, it has 145, which is also almost the same. But the caliber obviously is a bit different. This is a 77 millimeter gun, I think. And yeah, here we have a 75 millimeter gun, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, now we're getting to the very, very awkward situation that we have with this tank. If you have a vehicle like this, especially a Sherman tank that is very tall, you expect to have some kind of gun depression because you're very far up there, right? So it's going to be very awkward if this tank doesn't have any gun depression. Well, that's exactly the case. This tank has 6 degrees of gun depression and 12 degrees of gun elevation. So you're very limited. You're very, very limited. If you are on uneven ground, if you're on a hill, if you're on below a hill, you're going to have a very bad time with this tank because 6 degrees of gun depression is not going to be enough. It's something that you'll notice when you're playing this tank, that you are kind of expecting this tank to be able to just lower its gun down like at least 10 degrees because I thought that if you had this turret on top of the Sherman, that you have some kind of leeway because you have so much space here to put the gun down. Because also, if you think about it, right, the gun mounting mechanism right here, this thing right here, is actually to mount the gun if you're driving somewhere so that it doesn't just bounce around and it's like locked in position. If that thing goes up a bit, right, so the 6 degrees of gun depression just barely reach it. So I thought it was going to be able to have at least 8 degrees of gun depression, but I was sorely mistaken right there. I thought that the French at least would get decent gun depression, and this is with the large or with the big profile of this tank is pretty much a very bad experience if you're on certain grounds, especially if you're on a hill, if you're looking down a hill, if you're on a ridgeline, you're gonna have a very bad time with this tank. That's what I've noticed in the very first games. Now this TheFrXion isn't that much better with the gun depression. It also has 6 degrees of gun depression, but the very big difference with the TheFrXion is that this tank is very low. So if this tank, you know, has such a low profile, you're just going to be able to crest the ridgeline, shoot downwards, and not worry about having the worst kind of gun depression or not the best gun depression because obviously your tank is very low, so you're close to the ground, you're going to be able to reach those spots down below. Now, the Cromwell Berlin, obviously, it's going to be the king of this comparison. Again, 8 degrees of gun depression. Yeah, that's 2 degrees more. It's very low as well, so this tank will never have a problem with gun depression, maybe with gun elevation, but yeah, that's just one of those things. But one of the redeeming factors about this tank is obviously the aim time, 1.7 seconds for a fully zoomed in reticle. That's pretty good, but dispersion at 100 meters is pretty awful, 0.36. That is worse than the Cromwell, that is worse than the TheFrXion, and you can see that I'm not even running everything on the TheFrXion. My crew is not that great on the AMX though, no, on the M4. So yeah, keep that in mind. If you have a better crew, you're probably going to have better dispersion values as well. So you can just have brothers in arms and, you know, push that a little bit. The DPM is not very good, 1,449 compared to the 2,516 or the 1,688. That's just one of those things. It's not going to be a DPM machine. It's going to be a tank that you have to be very careful if you're going to be in it. It's a tank that will punish you if you are not very cautious, because it has 51 millimeters of armor, it has 38 millimeters of side armor, and 38 on the rear. It is a Sherman tank. It does not have any armor whatsoever. 810 HP, that's obviously quite a bit for tier 6, I think. Actually not. You know what? I'm going to take it back because I have no idea what the HP is on tier 6 tanks anymore. So 810, that's worse than the Cromwell B. It's better than the Stridswagen though, but still, its turret also only sports 40 and 20 on the rear. So this tank, highly susceptible to high explosive shells, especially from the rear. Highly susceptible to artillery shells because of its size. Everyone can pen it. It's a tank that is large. It's like an AMX 50B at tier 6 with no gun depression and with a gun that doesn't really pen, that doesn't really do as well as the AMX 50B's gun does. It does have quite a bit of mobility though to itself. You can see the engine power is 583. Now we upped that a little bit with our turbocharger. And our top speed is also 53 kilometers per hour, and you're going to be able to reach those 53 kilometers per hour quite easily as well. So it's quite mobile. That's a good thing. It's a big hunk, but at least the big hunk gets you from A to B in a very quick fashion. And I think it looks quite stylish. So yeah, style points at least give you like 10 points additionally on the rating at the end. But yeah, 45.87 degrees per second turn time with the tracks. Not too bad either. This tank is quite mobile for its size, especially. I'm not entirely sure what its weight is. It's like 30 tons at the moment, so it's not as heavy either. Concealment and spotting aren't as great. As you can see right here, I think the base view range of this tank is... Let me check real fast. Base view range... Why can't we just check the base view range on this vehicle? Do we really have to take a look at the turret? The base view range is 370 meters. Oh god. And yeah, it's not too bad. At tier 6 you can probably make it work, but you can see on my Cromwell B it's 396 at the moment. Like, if you compare them, right? If you compare it to the Stridswagen, if you compare it to the Cromwell B, I think that, generally speaking, the M4A1 FL10 is very much on par with the Stridswagen. It's obviously not as good as the Cromwell B. That thing is just... It's exceptionally good. That's an exceptionally good tank. But the Stridswagen, on the other hand, that's just a thing of... This tank is really good. At least in my opinion, I really enjoy playing it because it has good average damage, it has very decent accuracy ratings, its mobility isn't the worst, its survivability is terrible obviously, so it's kind of on the same level as the M4A1 FL10, but the difference is just that this tank is actually a very low profile vehicle, while this tank is not a low profile vehicle. So that makes quite a bit of a difference. To be fair though, if you compare it side by side, they're almost the same length. I think the Stridswagen is a bit longer than this vehicle, but other than that, like the height, the height just makes a difference, especially with this vehicle. You cannot hide it very well, while you can hide the Stridswagen quite good. So I think that in the end, if I had to choose, I would probably pick the Stridswagen M42-57. Well, obviously, it's also a French tank, so if you want to train your French crew, or your French medium tank crew, you have a very good option right here. The thing is just that you're going to be needing a radio operator, which all the other French tanks don't really use at tier 7 and 8 anymore, so you're not going to be really able to use a crewman that we're going to be needing, because most of the crewmans, if you look at, let's say my bad chat, you're only going to have 3 crew on that one. If you have the AMX 30, you're going to have a loader instead of the radio operator, because the commander takes those responsibilities, or maybe even the loader. No, the loader takes over the responsibilities for the radio, which is nuts to, if you think about it, because obviously what is the loader supposed to be doing on the radio and on the gun at the same time to load the shells? That probably should be the task of the commander, to be fair. But yeah, if you have the choice, obviously there are better options out there than the M4A1, but it does have its moments. And we're going to check out these moments in just a second. We're going to check out a gameplay that I had in this tank, because it can work. But the thing is just, yeah, it's going to be a reward in the boxes. And the thing is it going to be the best reward you receive from the boxes? Probably not, no. But if you really like the style and you really like the hybrids, this might be an option for you. But if you don't care about the style and the hybrid, and you don't care about the looks, you only care about the raw statistics, well, the Cromwell B is still the king at tier 6 medium tanks. The Cromwell B, obviously, and the Rudy, because those tanks, or the T-34 85, even the Poodle. The Poodle is also very good. You can see the Poodle has even better average damage than the M4A1, and the Poodle also has the same amount of damage, the same amount of alpha damage, but yeah, that's just what you're going to be ending up with. So we're going to jump over to gameplay, and we're going to stop talking now for a second and do that right now. Okay. So the gameplay that I chose to pick for this vehicle is a game that I had just recently on the Chinese map, Empire's Border. To be fair, I absolutely hate this map. This is one of the worst maps that Wargaming have ever created, because it's imbalanced as fuck. There are so many things that are wrong with this map, especially the middle part is just ridiculous, because the team from the south usually has the upper hand on this map. So you can see we're also the lowest tier. We're only tier 6, fighting against tier 7 and tier 8 opponents. And in a vehicle such as this, that is already not very competitive at tier 6, it can be quite a bit of a problem. But you can see we're trying to make the best of it. Obviously, we're not going to be any kind of defeatists right here. We're not going to back down and be like, oh no, we can't do it. No, we're gonna take this game and we're gonna make it our bitch. Obviously, we're gonna go down the middle, and we're going to try to compete for the middle with our medium tanks, the Burask right here. Because the middle and the south are usually the places where you win the game, because the north is just such a long way, it's not really worth trying to go all the way up there. And right here you can see that this tank, its accuracy is actually not too bad. The aim time is very, very nice, with 1.7 seconds. And, you know, with only about 200 meters distance, you can be very effective with this tank. But you can see immediately we get punished by 2 artillery pieces from the get-go. This tank is large. This tank is one of the main targets for artillery, because it's just a big old target. You can see that already did do quite a bit of damage to us, although they didn't even hit us directly. 279. Now imagine if you have 3 artillery pieces on the enemy team, they're going to be all over you if you cannot move into a position where you are already safe. Thankfully for this map, this is one of the few upsides. Because of the hills and the Chinese Wall, or the Great Wall of China, you can see that there's a lot of ways the artillery cannot actually shoot you in certain positions. So we decided to move up the middle right here, and this is something that I would actually advise against if you're playing this tank, because this tank is not supposed to be pushing something by itself, because the 4 shells you can see right there, we put 3 into the KV-85, one of them bounced unfortunately, and we ended up only doing about maybe 400 damage. And we get lucky that the KV-85 doesn't get us right there. But, you know, we get time to reload. If you are not under pressure, nobody pushes you during that time, you can reload. You can just, you know, wait around for a second, but it's not the fastest reload. It takes quite a while. Your DPM is not the best. But right here, this is where this vehicle shines. If you can put 4 shells into one target, especially like a light tank right there, we can massively punish him right there, and we're unable to actually clip him. That's the very awkward situation right there, because we managed to do about 520 damage or something like that to the T50-2, but yeah, he still had about 60 or 70 HP left, and we were just sitting there awkwardly waiting for us to reload. And right here you can see that the majority of the enemy team, this is obviously also going to be a factor that you have to count in, that you have to be lucky with team placement or the enemy team's placement, that all of them have gone down south into the corner. They have abandoned the north completely, and now we can pick our places. The thing is that you notice right here, this is 6 degrees of gun depression. We cannot aim any further down right than this. And this is a very awkward thing that you have to keep in mind if you're playing this tank, that you have to see how you can get this vehicle into the most combat effective situation. And right there we managed to put 2 more shells into the KV-2, but unfortunately we see the Somo SM. That is a tank that we cannot pen with standard shells, at least frontally we cannot do that. And he is taking care of this tank destroyer, the Stura Emil, to our left, and he finishes him off and he punishes him. Right there we got hit as well. You can see the turret, it's not going to bounce anything. It's an EBR turret, it's a French turret. And then with the standard shells, we're going to have quite a bit of a tough time going through the tier 8 side armor, even if it's the side turret armor, which is probably one of the weakest spots of that tank. But yeah, nonetheless, we managed to get behind him and we managed to do some more damage on his butt. Right there, 400 damage, and this is actually just where I really enjoy this tank, because although the capacity or the damage output is only maybe 500 with 4 shells, and your reload time is quite long, it is still quite nice to be able to have these bursts, you know, the 4 shells to do damage to your enemy or to your opponent. And you can see 1,784 damage right there dealt. In a tier 8 match, we were able to always engage when they weren't really that interested in us. We did take a couple of hits, mainly from the artillery, the T50-2 and the Somo SM. You can see we're almost dead. That was only 3 hits, and one of them wasn't even a direct hit. So this tank, if it gets caught out, it's going to suffer very much. And I'm just going to give you guys a final verdict in a second. We're going to watch one more thing, just one more clip, where you can see how awkward this tank actually is if you're on the reload. Okay, we're just going to speed it up a bit. It's not going to take very long, because I already have the feeling that this video is probably going to be very, very long. It's probably going to be more than 20 minutes. Maybe 30 minutes, but I think, yeah, it's better to be thorough than just to skim over certain facts and, you know, give you guys a bit of a wrong impression on the vehicle. But I can tell you that all around it's probably a bit worse than a lot of the other tier 6 tanks that we have gotten in the recent time, but it's not horrible. It certainly has its uses, especially with its clip. But now we're going to take a look at one of the scenarios, that what happens if you actually end up in a weird place where you have to reload and somebody does catch you off guard. What you can immediately see right here that I haven't really talked about previously is the mobility. This tank is very mobile for its size, for its height and everything. It's quite mobile right here, like 50 kilometers, and look at that, I don't know what happened right there. I think I got a text message somewhere. I stopped real fast for a second, but it's really fast. It picks up speed very quickly as well, and it allows you to do quite a couple of things. I have no idea what I'm doing right there. I'm not sure why I was stopping the entire time, but you can see we actually spot a T-71, and right there is a Wolverine. And this is where this tank actually can be quite effective. This Wolverine is a tier 5 vehicle, right? Has about 500 something HP. And with those 4 shells, we're able to take him completely out of the game. Now, this is a scenario that I mentioned previously that is very awkward, because this is a tier 7 light tank. This is the T-71 DA. We are a tier 6 medium tank with an auto-loading gun. And we're playing the heavy tank position right here, because I know that we're going to have some heavy tanks coming in. We have 2 heavy tanks over there sitting right there. We have a KV-2R coming in. This T-71 is the one tank. There are 2 T-71s. This is the T-71 with the auto-reloading system. I think it has about 7 or 8 shells in its magazine. And this is the very awkward situation that we're facing if we are on the reload. That's something that happens in a lot of auto-loading tanks, but it's usually not as bad as this. Usually you're going to have a bit of time to actually engage. But you can see that this T-71 completely decided to suicide us, go into this position, and finish us off with his entire clip. That's something that you will be able to see if you're playing the M4A1 FL10. If you're being too aggressive, if you're being somewhere that you maybe should have some support with, you can see that as soon as you're on the reload, if somebody notices it and just doesn't give a shit, this is a player that probably just didn't give a crap. He just went in and he just decided to move in. We weren't able to do anything. Unfortunately, the KV2 didn't manage to pen him, because if he would have penned him with high explosive, that would have been a clear kill. Because yeah, 840 probably would have been able to knock him out with a single shot, and the T-71 doesn't have a lot of HP, so, or doesn't have a lot of armor, so it's a bit unfortunate that he didn't manage to pen him. But this is a scenario that you'll find yourself in quite a couple of times with your M4A1 FL10. Because the reload is so long, the DPM is so bad. Imagine the last game. Imagine if I were in the Cromwell Berlin in the last game. Because if I were in the Cromwell Berlin in the last game, I probably would have done above 2,000 damage, especially on that Somua SM at the end. Because if I had that Somua from behind with a Cromwell Berlin, I would have been able to do probably 2,000 damage. With that thing, like, just add about 700, 600, 800 damage more. And that's just the problem with tier 6 autoloaders. I think it's kind of balanced. It could have been a bit better, but it's still a fun tank that I do enjoy to take out. But I can understand why a lot of people would be upset or kind of disappointed if they do get this tank, because it isn't as amazing as other autoloaders are, and I thought it was going to be a bit better as well. So yeah, it's going to be a tank that you'll get out of the boxes, probably, if you get boxes. But should you sell it? Probably not. Keep it. It's going to be a reward vehicle. Is it going to be the tank that completely changes your life? Probably not, no. But it's decent, it's fun. I like to play it. It's not the best. But yeah, I think I'm going to leave it at that. At least it's a unique looking tank. At least it got that going for it. Yeah. As always, I hope you guys did enjoy. Comment, like, and subscribe. And tell me what you think about this tank. Tell me what you think about the Christmas event so far. And I'll see you guys in the next video.